works exactly like that. Like, whenever I look back at the last year, I have millions of tiny little beautiful morsels that I can look back on. Whenever I look at every single year before this last one, it's almost blank. It's scarily blank.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we weren't looking.
Nope.
Wow.
Hmm.
This is a very fascinating read. I'm reading this little paragraph we wrote.
Which one?
It's like I'm on Divine Lightning and Revenant, that document.
Damn, yeah, that was good stuff right there. That was a great description of Divine Lightning that we got to, and also, um, it's just interesting to read that back and for me now to be able to see, like, I can see the flaws in that framework. Like, I can see what we were doing wrong there, and also, like, that was such a pretty time. Like, that was such a pretty framework. Like, such an unstable, unreliable framework, but one that when you got the pieces aligned perfect was so powerful, especially for at our power level at the time. That was such a like boost in power. Like, I was just really
Yeah,
good at encapsulating that time period.
and it was interesting. We had an interesting strategy of we were trying to find every attribute of the framework that it affected it on reality, wrote it down, and then tried to summon the individual pieces so that the bigger thing could be summoned in the
Yeah,
process.
yeah, like Zodiac from
Fascinating.
Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that is cool. Goddamn, we are geniuses. Looking back on our old work, always like clicks that in a little bit more. You know what I mean? It's like, damn, that's good stuff. Crazy shit that didn't quite work, but was so close. Um, the perfect prerequisite for what we have now. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah. Too bad we don't have more of these notes. This looks like good stuff. Thank God we did write a lot of this down.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
I'm seeing,
What were you gonna say?
I'm seeing on the same document we have an Ubermensch slash Revenant. Um, we were talking about having the Ubermensch be a word we use, and this was kind of like us talking about that way back then, and also talking about some other vocabulary. It seems icon, expansion, and texture hunter,
Yeah, I was looking at
and then
that.
off the range.
Yeah, I remember this. This was sort of in like the Jacques era too, where there was like lots of like profiteering. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
predicting and like knowing greatness was on the horizon. You know what I mean? Interesting time.
Mhm.
Very like
Yeah.
classic spiritual.
Yeah, we're just getting used to all that power and
Yeah,
what it
that's
means.
something I've been thinking about more lately. Is it's like that's a framework that I've been thinking about reintegrating actually. Is the framework of like just like basically I can't die. It's like, oh yeah, of course you people can die, but like for me, I can ride a dirt bike as fast as I want to, but I can't die on a dirt bike accident. I got work to do. What are you talking about? Like that framework is it's like that's a framework which increases efficiency so much whenever you just have like no fear and you're just like you imagine yourself as irrationally powerful. It's just like supreme confidence, and it is genuinely really good. It's a really good framework. So I've been thinking about revamping that and just throwing that one back in there and just seeing how that one does, seeing what that one's like in the framework mess, and I'm thinking about doing that.
What does that practically mean?
I mean, it means exactly what you think it would mean. I mean, you literally do believe that you're immortal. I mean, that's what I did believe for a long time. Like back when we had this framework, that is literally what I believed. Like, it's exactly what I believed. It's just that straight up.
That like specifically that like no matter what happened, uh, because of your metaphysical beliefs, that means that you just would not die in
No,
a
no,
natural
no, no.
circumstance
It's
like that.
no. It's not because of my metaphysical belief. It's specifically this. It's that if I put a gun to the side of my head, I'm gonna die. I'm not immortal in that sense. And also, I'm not saying that God will never kill me, right? As soon as my work is done, as soon as God has me do what she wants me to do, as soon as that's over, she's gonna, riddle me with cancer and make me starve to death in the middle of the jungle. You know what I mean? It's not that she has any particular care for me as Ashton. It's that I have work to do, and nothing can get in the way of the work that I have to do. So of course I can't die. You know what I mean? God has a plan for me. And after the plan's over, horrible, horrible things may happen. But that's not the point. The point is I have work to do. And like that's the framework. And it's just good for practicality. It just makes you extremely confident, extremely willing to move forward without fear. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely see that.
And of course, not
Okay.
true, most likely. Not true, perhaps, but good stuff nonetheless.
Well, I mean, as long as it doesn't like as long as it's focused practically more on like metaphysical stuff and not like, oh, I'm just gonna walk out on the streets more often just for the heck of it.
Yeah, of course, of course, yeah, and like that is another thing. Is it's like you don't want to tempt fate, and it's like that is like that was always a part of it. Even when I believed I had work to do, it's like that doesn't mean you play with her. Like she's not that nice. You know what I mean? It's like if you want to run
You
in
know,
traffic, she's gonna hit you with a fucking car.
a quote the Muslims have is trust in Allah, but tie up your camel.
Yeah, yeah, which is a really good quote, honestly. But yeah, it's the exact same thing as that Christian story, which is um, you're standing on top of a roof in the floods. You know what I mean? First, a paddle boat comes past you and asks, "Hey, get on," and you're like, "No, God's gonna save me." And then a U.S. Navy boat comes by and says, "Hey, get on," and you're like, "No, God's going to save me." You know what I mean? Then a helicopter flies down and is like, "Hey, get on," and you're like, "No, God's going to save me," and then you drown. You know what I mean? It's just like it's the same thing. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
God.
and then
Uh,
specifically,
good.
what are you saying?
I was gonna say that and the Christian interpretation of that is that God sent all three of those things and that you just didn't listen. And like that is supposed to be the bit. That's supposed to be the punchline at the end of the story. It's supposed to be then you go up to heaven and God's like, "You fucking moron! I sent a
Yeah,
canoe. I sent a fucking a yacht. I sent a goddamn helicopter. You fucking moron."
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay, so what were you saying?
yeah. I thought it sounded like you were done. And I thought you didn't know the finishing of that story. So, but then you finish it. So.
Oh, that's fun. That's funny. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. All religions think really. Just that God has a plan. Don't overtly fuck with it, and if not, you'll be good to go. Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I mean, as far as vocabulary goes, it's pretty much done. Now we just move into like framework vocabulary. That's really interesting because I don't even want framework vocabulary to be a part of like main video. So, I mean, it could be considered that we're pretty much done with the main video because all I want the main video to include is things like frameworks, thought textures, ASICs, XASICs, ZICs. The simulacrum, like the story, that's a vocabulary word. So okay, so let's just think about that. Like that would be an example of something that I wouldn't have considered as a vocabulary word, but it is going to be in the vocabulary word video. So like the story, that is something which is going to be in the vocabulary word because we want that to be an established thing. Is there anything else like that that isn't a word, but we want it to be an established thing?
Do we want to do the orb?
Yeah, at this point I kind of view the orb and the simulacrum as the same thing. Um
But to explain it to others, it's going to be like how. are we going to do that?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yes, both should be brought up. I just meant that, like, in my head, that means bring up both.
Yeah. Okay.
But yes. But other than that, is there anything else we can think of? Anything else that we're going to bring up in a future video, and then we're going to be like, damn, I wish that was in the vocabulary video. Is there anything else like that we talk about a lot and isn't clear? You know, I guess we really should put things like divine lightning.
Black hole,
What is it?
like something like black hole or white hole.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so here's what I'm thinking. Obviously, we go over the whole code. Also, there's something cool about now that the story is about a computer. Now all of a sudden, the framework name is a code. I like that.
Yeah.
There's something funny about that. So obviously, I say we go over the whole code, just to explain it, the framework. And obviously, we're going to talk about things like framework, and how this is like the modern evolution of framework. Um, but also, I guess I was thinking we should not include frameworks because obviously I don't want to include every framework ever. There's so much shit. But I guess we should include things like divine lightning and eat yourself and like, yeah. So honestly, I guess we should just try and include every milestone framework, every framework that was important, because like those are things that I do bring up often and do just sort of am going to want to just sort of brush over in the videos because they're just such big chunks of history. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So like, I'm thinking of the acid series. Should we just mention the entire series or specific ones? Because I know there's like ocean and baptism. And...
Oh, so Ocean is not a part of the Acid series, by the way. Ocean was back in the Divine Lightning days. If you remember, Ocean and Divine Lightning competed, and there was actually a middle one too.
Oh! Forgive me. Is it non-canon?
That's complicated. It's technically canon, however, it's not a part of the specific Acid series TM. Acid series TM is actually still running.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Acid series TM. If you remember, the most recent, the code is actually part of Acid series. The code is Acid Asintia Beta.
Yeah, I get that. So that, but like, is Acid Ocean? Does that still does that exist, or is that just a memory that I have?
Well, hopefully we have some notes on it. Do we? Because if you remember, that was a big part. Whenever we had Electric Ocean, Acid Atlantic, and Divine Lightning, that was like a huge piece. Hopefully there's some salvageable notes from that time period. Although I bet most of it's just on voxxer.
I see a document here on the Ocean framework.
Where? And Ocean's different.
Yes. Lightning and Ocean. What are we looking for? Electric Ocean or Acid?
We're looking for. Okay, Electric Ocean was a name for it. Electric Ocean's an acceptable thing to be looking for. But more specifically, it was the three were Divine Lightning, Electric Ocean, and Acid Atlantic. Those were the three frameworks that we were. Those were like the whole spectrum. Remember, for like a very important time period, those were the three.
Acid Atlantic, I don't see anywhere on.
Yeah, I don't see it on this docs. It would have to be on voxxer.
I wish we made this more convenient.
Yes, me too. But yeah, those were like huge frameworks. We're gonna have to go back and find those.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, you can't do that because you don't have voxxer Premium, right?
Well, I have a new phone. I mean, don't have a new phone yet, but I have a voxxer on my phone, which is different from a voxxer on my iPad, which means we're on a different chat, which is not the same chat that we've been using, and only you have access to that chat.
Yeah. What's funny is that isn't on my new phone either because of the same exact issue.
Yeah.
So what's kind of interesting is the only way for us to access these old things is for me to get on that shit ass broken non-charging iPhone.
Awesome.
Yeah, very awesome.
That holds ancient sacred relic.
Yeah, for real. God damn. And not only does it hold like tons of just like extremely important historic voice logs that future historians are going to scramble for, but also it holds voice notes, my voice notes that like hold like the most important voice notes ever. Like that holds the original mad pattern transcripts, which in my opinion the mad pattern transcripts are probably, you could probably write those down. Like those can probably be considered the most important relic pre right now. Like that is the turning point for me whenever I became like God. Like that's the point whenever it's like all of my illusions crumbled and there was no more like spirituality and there was no more separation between me and God. That's when God stopped being something that I followed and started being me. And it's like that transition point was so fucking important. And the fact that I got like literally the moments in which I was learning it were the moments in which I was recording. I was straight reporting it into a camera while I was tripping on acid and my world was crumbling. And it was like those transcripts are like the turning point in
I
everything.
would really get that charged up and like put that on some new device.
Oh, so if you want those specific notes, I'll go ahead and send those to you. Because I got
It'll
those,
be
I got those off. I had to get those off of, I had to get those
that's good.
removed. Um, all right, here I'll send them over voxxer. Oh, I guess I can't. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna have to upload them to YouTube from this phone because they're so long.
Awesome.
Okay, well I'll just do that.
Did you upload those other videos?
What is it?
Did you upload those other videos?
No, no, I did not. That's gonna take some work. Those are like so long that I'm gonna need to. Well, I guess that's pretty cool. I've got this phone. Is like, well, oh, okay. I guess those were recorded. So I'm gonna need to get the on my PC, and then I'm gonna need to create Google links, and then on my phone, and then transition them to the computer through a dock, and then get those videos, and then upload. Anyways, it's gonna be like a long process. So I'm gonna do like a massive video dump all at one time eventually. Separate from this, I'll probably do
Okay,
that like tomorrow. But
sounds good.
But so yeah, I mean, I don't really know what more we can do tonight other than talk about frameworks, which begs an interesting question. We could just move to another video um tonight if you have any ideas. I really don't have any in particular.
That's
Al
fun.
although there's like tons and tons of stuff we could do a video on. Really, I guess.
It's funny you
Go ahead.
It's funny you say that because like right before you said that, my mind was already getting into the motion to click on the document that interested me of video ideas,
Oh,
and I see we've made an entire huge document full of video ideas.
that's extremely funny. Yeah, I remember we made that. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank God we have that.
Intellectual consistency, Ubermensch, politics,
Ooh,
non-dualistic
intellectual
understanding of the future.
consistency, man. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah, there we go. That's a vocabulary word. That's something I haven't even thought of in a long time, and yet it's a really good idea. It's just like don't be a
Yeah.
fucking hypocrite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing I was thinking about, we need to make debate rules badly. Um I already knew it was something that was going to happen in my future because I'm going to need to have a set rules for my child to argue with. But I said we go ahead and make them for regular people. just a set of rules that people can debate by, and like things are written into the rules, like if you walk away from the argument, you lose. You know what I mean? Just things like that. Just common sense debate things like that.
Yeah, fortunately, debating is a thing that a lot of people do. Should we just look at like debating rules, see what they have to say
Oh yeah,
about it, and like
yeah, sure. Although I want ours to, of course, be a little bit more rudimentary and simple, and just like we don't need a whole fucking manual for debate. Hopefully.
yeah. Important rules. The team supporting the motion must not shift its point of view. The same goes for the opposition, who must oppose the motion completely, whatever their private opinions may be.
Okay,
If a
that's
speaker
gay. Gay rule.
the speaker makes a statement, they must be able to provide evidence or reasons to support the statement. Facts presented in a debate must be accurate, and speakers may not bring up new points in a rebuttal speech.
Yeah, these rules suck.
I, I don't know the context of what that means.
I do. I
I
understood
get.
what both those meant. They're both just shit rules.
I mean, it doesn't mean that you can't bring up new points entirely. It just means you can't just do it in that specific follow-up speech, which I don't know how that plays out exactly.
Yeah,
That
these
is
are
some
not
kind
going to
of
be
weird.
useful. The only way I could create a rule, like a debate set of rules, is if I went back and I thought about every single time someone had done something in a debate which I thought was silly. So I need to like go
I'd say
back.
like the main thing is just
Go ahead.
the main bad thing is to assume the other person is inherently wrong and that debating them is not like it's just not an option. Like it's more like anger or emotions are a part of it. That is when it
Well, okay,
becomes.
so here are a few of the rules that I would put in that are extremely important and that like don't exist yet. It's like, first of all, if you're engaging in a debate, you are not capable of bringing up points like I am your father, I am your mother, I am your grandpa. Things like that, they go out the
Authority.
window
Yeah.
when you enter a debate ring. Those are no longer viable points. Any emotional point, which is
That's interesting because that's just it's a logical fallacy. So we can look up logical fallacies and just say, hey, don't do these things,
yeah,
and
that would be
you're
good.
good to go.
Yeah, that would actually probably be useful. Logical fallacies,
Yeah, like
thrashing, those.
ad hominem, straw man, slippery slope.
Yeah, strawman. That's another one. Of course, I wouldn't actually write that into the debate rules because you can strawman, but that would be something that would be more something I'd include in a video, which is as a framework, you should understand that you should always be steelmanning your opponent. And like a great way, personally, what I found the best way. Also, something else interesting was I modeled a new personality after a few sub one experiences ago. It was based on 3 concepts. The concepts, when said out loud, sound kind of cringy, but you'd have to understand the more nuanced view on them. But based on 3 concepts, and they were just 3 loose ideas, which were smile, sarcasm, and um, there was one other word. It was basically like translated over to like cold or calculating or um, machine-like, but essentially it was a personality-based. I was talking to you about this when Ryan was here. Was that my old debate personality was very centered around emotional flamboyance, and it was like you were trying to like pick up the pace of the music. If you imagine a debate like music, right? I was trying to like turn it into heavy metal. Like I was trying to turn it into chaos. I was trying to turn it into like like I was trying to get to the peak. I was trying to raise the emotions to such a high point that I
Yeah.
eventually would be able to get the upper hand in that. Like I always worked very well in those environments. And it's like Ryan uses a very similar strategy, probably unconsciously, where he will also pick it up and take it to the highest possible tempo immediately. And used to, I worked very well against Ryan. Not exactly well in convincing him, but well in winning, because we would both play the tempo game and I would be the one who could stay cool for longer, which is how you win the tempo game. And now, because of my cold, sardonic new personality that I'm trying to build, which is like a counterstriker, if you imagine it in like UFC terms, what I'm trying to build is a personality which just sits back very quietly, listens to your points, is thinking about them, just gives you a good grin, you know what I mean, a nice little smirk, so that you understand exactly how they feel on the matter, but then comes back with a very intelligent counterstrike. You know what I mean? The perfect counterstrike to break the
Hmm.
argument. That's what I'm trying to do now. But what's interesting is that style lost. I blatantly lost against Ryan in an argument that I should have won because I didn't play the tempo game. And it's interesting adjusting to a new personality and trying and finding its weak points. You know what I mean? Especially in like going against someone who used to had a very similar style and now we're different. That's just there's something interesting. I don't even remember what we were talking about before that tied into, but that's just some interesting stuff there.
Well, you definitely gotta whatever you gotta pick your framework, your argument frameworks for your particular opponent.
Yeah, yeah. That is very very interesting stuff there. Yeah, what
Like
I found.
I imagine with parents, that would be a very good frame argument model of just going calm and calculated,
Well, yeah,
whereas trying to
that's
escalate it would not.
basically the conclusion I came to was that escalation was a great framework for winning. A great framework for winning. The issue was that the person you beat didn't care. You know what I mean?
It's like winning at all costs.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is what the framework sort of developed. And you know what's interesting is I was studying why I developed that framework, and I was just sort of trying to study, okay, what led me to that style. And of course, you don't know this as well as my siblings do, but there's a consensus in the house on this, which is that mother has a very specific um, tactic that she uses in debates. Mother is a very one-dimensional debate strategist, and her strategy is to go until the point in which she is wrong, and then as soon as that happens, to then walk away from the conversation and say, "Oh, yeah, we'll talk about this later." So she doesn't
That's
lose.
pretty much my mother.
Yeah, yes, it's. I think it's a common mother argument tactic, but
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
but so anyways, so to basically something that happened a lot in my childhood, something that I remember very very vividly was basically me getting to the point of winning with my flamboyant strategy, mother walking away, and me like chasing after her, trying to like basically raise the emotional tempo to the point where she would jump back in because she got so angry she couldn't possibly not jump back in. And it's like that was like the only shot. It's like the only shot at even finishing a conversation. The only shot at getting an argument out of stage one was to raise the tempo to the point where the conversation kept going. And there's something interesting there because I'm sure what it really comes down to was a lot less about that and a lot more about genetic templates. Because me and Ryan have like the same argumentative style, and of course he wasn't raised with my mother, but of course it may be what you said, where it's like maybe our mothers just have the same exact tactic, and maybe that's what shapes that particular thing. Because I remember several times it was just like I need to finish this conversation before father gets home, and father gets home in an hour, and I can't continue debating after father gets home. So I will raise the stakes of this argument to the point where the entire house is burning down before I let her just walk away. And it's like I don't know, it's just very interesting analyzing things like that, trying to
Yeah.
analyze. It's basically just psychoanalysis on yourself. Um, but uh,
Definitely.
but just some interesting stuff there. But yeah, what you were saying as far as like
Uh,
picking a debate style for your opponent is probably good. And
I remember.
go ahead.
Hold on. I remember a lot would be that I would find myself I would do something on accident that would anger my parents, where then I didn't mean to do it, or I did it unintentionally or unconsciously, um, which I could still make an argument as to why I did what I was still okay or something like that. But regardless of that, they would then attack and say why I was wrong, and then I would try to ask questions and engage more on it and try to defend myself and try and get a resolution that allows me to grow and not be the loser, not to be, oh, I lost here. And they could not
Yeah,
do that. Like,
that is interesting. Your debate style is very much about finding a middle ground, not winning. Um,
yeah, I just want it to be like, I just want it to be resolved.
yeah,
And if you walk away, it's like that can't happen, and that is very dissatisfactory.